Good afternoon. Today we're going to learn how to create a cell for a welding robot, much like this cell that you have seen in the previous videos. And then we're going to import some CAD files from Autodesk Inventor, or you can utilize SolidWorks or any other CAD program. So the first thing we're going to do is going to create a brand new cell. So we're going to go New Cell. We're going to use the Welding Pro. And then we're going to give it a name. So I call this Wheel Cart Frame Weld. Next, and we're going to create with default. We're going to use the newest version. We're going to pick our welding torch, so we're going to go up to our CAD library and we're going to go down to welding torches. And there's all different types of welding torches that closely resembles the one we have in the classroom. Is going to be the E-cell torque, so this one right here. But they have all different types of welding torches here that you can utilize. I'm going to hit OK. So there's my E-cell torque. Next we're going to pick our robot. So our welding robot in the classroom is an LR Mate 200ID 7L, so I'm going to look for that. But they do have the larger Arc Mate robots up here that you traditionally see in an actual industrial setting. So I'm going to find my LR Mate ID 7L. Next. And we don't have to set anything else up. We're not going to have a track or any other devices that are going to be on here. It's going to be just a simple table with a robot and then a fixture. But if you want to add different movable things, you can add different servos at this point right here. If you want to add any other software that you may have. And then we're going to finish, and then we're going to allow it to run. Usually this takes about 2 to 3 minutes, so I'm going to just pause the video until this is ready. Alright, so here's our robot. So we have our welding torch. Again, bad thing about our software is we do not have the whip that comes off that feeds the welding wire to the actual welder itself. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is plan out your cell. Usually I like to do a little sketch of my cell beforehand on exactly what I want to do. So I'm going to actually put this robot onto a steel table, much like how you saw in my other videos. So we're going to go to Cell. And I like to use the tables as fixtures. So we're going to go Fixture, and then we're going to go the CAD library. And inside the CAD library, we're going to go down to where it says Fixtures, Table. And let's check out the different tables. So there's all different tables. I like this one because it's a heavy-duty table. But you can find other items for like the robot to actually sit on, which are actual tables for the robot. But I'm going to utilize this heavy-duty table here. We'll bring it in, and you'll notice that, why don't I see it? If you zoom out, it's actually up in the air. So we need to resize this and reset this. So I'm going to rotate this, and we're going to go in the R direction, and then the W direction, which will rotate it the correct direction. So if you want it sideways like this, you keep it this way, or if you want to remain like this, you can just click it so the long way is going to be with the actual robot. Next, we're going to bring this down to the ground, because if you look at the side view, it's actually hovering in the air. So I'm going to just bring this down so it's close to the ground. I'm not worried about size right now or the height of this. If it's in the ground, that's fine, because as soon as we start manipulating the scale of this, it actually changes the height of our actual table. So I like this height for my Y. So if you look at the table, Y is going to be my height, Z is going to be my width, and then the X is going to be the length. So I'm going to add a little bit more onto the Z, so maybe 2, so it doubles the size of that. And then I'm going to add just a little bit more onto my X direction too, so maybe 1.5. I may have to change this later on, but for now we'll leave this as is. The next thing, let's go back to that side view, and let's try to get this so that it is close to the ground as possible. Look at here, and this is my Z. Right now it's 827.02, so if I just go in here, it looks like I'm pretty close. 25? Perfect. 825 it is. Okay, so we have 825 millimeters. Next, if you want this to be off to the side of the robot as well. So I'm going to bring this forward so that the back of the robot is actually towards the back of the table. So we'll say probably something like that. And then look at your numbers and just make it a nice nominal number like 375. That looks good right there. I'm going to leave it centered so that the robot has the full swing on here. So now I have my actual table. It's a heavy duty table in the correct scale, correct location. I'm going to change the color of this. I like to have a nice red table, so I go to the color here, pick red, hit OK, and then I hit apply. Now my table is red. If you want to make sure that you're not accidentally moving the table at all, you can lock the location value so you can't move it. You can always uncheck that and change this later on, so don't be fearful of locking it and being like, oh, I accidentally made a mistake. So I'm going to hit OK. So now that I have my table in size, let's bring our robot up. So I click the actual robot and you see the arrows here. And if you double click the robot, it will give you the actual sizes and information for that. Right now you can see LR Mate 200 ID 7L. We do have some information about edge visibility. We can also make it transparent if we want to. We can mess around with that. Then I'm going to change this, and we want the Z axis to be that 825, which is the height of my table. So I go to my side view, it should be directly on that table, which it is. And I like where it's at right there, so I'm going to just leave it at that position. So that's that Z that we matched from the actual table itself. So if we remember that 825, because anything that we add to the top of the table are at that number 825. All right, hit OK. So the next thing I like to do is see the actual work area of the robot itself. So you go up to our tools here, and we're going to show hide work envelope, and then we show actually the tool envelope, so U tool. So this is everywhere that the robot can reach. So technically this table part is out of the working area of the actual robot, but you can easily add some stuff here so that a person can put down maybe a clipboard or something along those lines, or a computer monitor, and then it'll be out of the way of the actual robot itself. So I'm going to leave that little space up there, but know that this is everywhere that that tool or that welding torch can reach. All right, so I'm going to turn that back off. So invisible. All right, so next I'm going to export a part from Autodesk Inventor. If you don't have Inventor, you do have other solid creating modeling devices. You can actually use Google SketchUp if you want. You just have to export it as the correct type of file. So if I go to Inventor here, so I already have this fixture already made. It's just a very basic fixture, V blocks that are holding up a tubing, and then the robot is going to weld around the square parts of this tubing. You can get really fancy if you want. You can add the hold downs, you can add the other supports and everything else to this if you're making an actual cell, but I'm not making an actual cell here. I'm just doing it for training purposes, so I didn't put too much time into actually making the hold downs and stops and everything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, Save As, Save Copy As, and then I'm going to go down to where the Save Type, and our software can accept a couple different files. I like to use the object file, so OBJ, and then here's my weld cell object file saved. So now that it's saved, I can go back into my software, and I'm going to add this as a fixture. So I'm going to go Cell, and I'm going to go Fixture, and then I'm going to go to Single CAD Library, and then I'm going to go to where it's saved. Here's my weld cell object file, so I can click here. And if you want to know what other files you can pick, here's all the list of files. We can go CSV, IGS, body dat, STL, and a couple other ones that you can utilize. Okay, so I'm going to use the welding cell object file, open. And I did create this in metric or millimeters so that I don't have to do any sort of scaling. It is actually 1:1. So when I created this in millimeter IPT, not inches or anything else. Because if you do that, then you're going to have to do a bunch of conversion to it. So you just have to be careful about that. So this is 1:1 size. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this so it fits on my table. There we go. I'm going to rotate it in my W direction 90 degrees. So this is Y, this is X. So we want to go a little bit closer here. Then for my Y, it's going to be the up and down. We go that 825. So I just put in my numbers. Z is going to be 825. If you remember, that's the height of our table. I put my X out, X direction from the robot to the center point here of 500. I centered it. When I created this part, my midpoint is right at that center. So if I turn on all these planes, you'll see exactly where my center point is. So everything is symmetrical on one side, so it makes things a lot easier to actually place it into my fixture and center everything. So right now I'm going to just check this with my U tool. Make sure that I can get to every single portion of this fixture. So I may move this out just a hair more bit because I need to get inside here with the welding tool and inside here. And the only way to actually check is to actually move the robot and see if you can actually hit those points. So I'm going to go 575 and see what it looks like. There we go. So 575. Now I'm going to use the CAD information or the CAD visibility for my coloring, but you can easily change the coloring here to modify it. You can also switch it to wireframe if you want instead of the solid model. So there's that wireframe. I think the solid is a lot easier to work with personally. And you can also lock the locations here once you're good. Remember, you can always unlock it. Hit OK. And now we have our fixture. So the next thing we can do is we can add some obstacles. We can obstacle, right click, add obstacle, or you can go up to cell, add obstacle. And we're going to go to CAD library. Here are our different obstacles, so we can have the actual ArcMate if we wanted to, or any other device that you may see here. So if you have a gas cylinder, we can add a gas cylinder back here. You can get pretty detailed with your cell, again, depending on the level of information that you want in here will tell us how big the cell needs to be if we need to, or how big the gating needs to be around this cell. So we'll just have a highly pressurized gas tank, just hanging out right in the floor here. And then we'll add maybe something next to it like the actual welding device. So I can add my welding device here. So we'll say we're going to be utilizing this type of welder. And I can move it into place. I can also rotate it. There we go. So say that's where I want my welder to be. Just make sure I'm at the 0 point there. There we go. So now I have my welder. Let's add maybe some gating around. So I just obstacle, new obstacle, CAD file. And I can go to fence. And there's many different types of fence I can pick. So maybe I'll go with the expanded wire to make it look pretty. Fence. If you want to know information about the last one, just click it. There we go, so we have some gating on this side. And then we'll also add some gating on the other side. Here we can also add workers if we wanted to. Add worker. So here's our worker. Rotate him around. There we go. So he's working at the top of our cell. We can also add other obstacles. We can add other fixtures. We can add a computer if we want. We can add teach pendant. We can add the actual robot, actual fixture. So I'm going to add the robot mainframe. So here's the controller. So ours is the R. Place it out here in the middle of nowhere. So you can add your controller there so we can see how everything fits together. So you can set up a cell pretty easily and pretty quickly if you have some information to help you with that. So we got the obstacles, we have the fixtures, we have a worker. Let's add another part to actually weld. So parts, if you notice how my fixture here is actually under the heading of fixture, it'll still weld on it, it'll still make the bead of there. The only thing that you can't do is if you're grabbing it with another robot, it will not be able to do that. So if you're setting up a cell where you have multiple robots and one's welding and the other one's placing it here, this will not work. You have to have this as a part in order to pick and place. So a part, unlike the fixture you place it exactly where you want it to be. A part you have to add to your actual table. So I'm going to add a part, and this one I'm going to just use the CAD library for now. And there are a couple different types of parts. You can do anything car. Here's a couple of fabrications. So if I want to do, say, weld on a angle steel here, hit OK. And I'm going to just do normal quantity. And it looks like nothing happened here. And the reason why is the parts come in on this side over here. So you can't rotate anything right now. All you can do is put in the size. So right now my size is 111. Maybe I want this to be that longer, or 3 here. If I want it to be that big, or if I want it to be double the size there. You can change and manipulate this. This is not really a size, it's just a scale. So now I have a long piece of L shape. We can also change the mass of this to say what the actual mass may be, 1 kilogram or 0.5 a kilogram, depending on the part. Okay, so this is our angled steel, and I hit apply, and okay. So this is off to the side now, and now what I do is I'm going to add this to my table. So I click my table, double click it, and I'm going to go to parts. And under parts, you'll see angle steel. So I click that angle steel, hit apply, and now you'll see the angle steel show up on my actual part. Now I have to move this, so I'm going to go edit the visibility here. I'm going to bring this to whatever I want or where I want it to be. So maybe I want this to be negative 300, and then we go negative, so it's the opposite way. So I'm going to put this off to the side, maybe like right here where it needs, maybe there's needs a weld on this angle piece right here. And what I can do is I can tell it how many parts I need to weld on here. So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or however many parts again. And I can hit apply on this. And what this can happen now is that I can add another robot, and I can actually pick and place this, and it will disappear and pick up with my actual robot and go into, say, another bin, and then the robot can pick up one from the bin and place it right here so that the welder can actually weld. So that's the difference between a fixture and a part. So in order to actually pick and place things and move things with the robot, it has to be a part. It cannot be a fixture, it cannot be an obstacle, it cannot be a worker. Okay, so it has to be a part. And we'll have more videos on actually setting up cells that maybe not so much the welding cell. We'll add another robot to it and actually set those things up. So this is just a very quick tutorial on how to set up a basic cell, how to export a CAD file, and then add it to your actual cell here.